Alright, it's that time again. We now have 3 new movies that I have yet to review. First one is a fan film that's very controversial called Spider-Man Lotus. I'm sure you've heard about it if you're coming across this channel. I'm actually almost positive of it. The second one is the new Equalizer film, the third film in this famous franchise featuring Denzel Washington as the Equalizer. And the third one is Gran Turismo, the brand new movie based off the video game. I'm going to give you my review of all 3 of these right here and right now. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What is your opinion on all 3 of these movies? Specifically, I think the more interesting one here, Spider-Man Lotus. Where do you stand on all this controversial stuff that's going around about this film? I mean, man, that's crazy. All the controversial stuff is crazy about this. Anyways, let's get this one started. That's the first one we're going to talk about is Spider-Man Lotus. And, yeah, I feel like I might just give you guys an explanation just in case you guys haven't been following what's been going on with this film. So basically, right, everything was going perfect. Like, it was a perfect... People were giving it a lot of money. They were going to make the comic book accurate Spider-Man with great story, great characters. People were giving a lot of money. It got over to the thousands. I think it maybe even crossed the millions of the budget. And then they were finally getting some progress on it. It looked like it was coming out soon. And then somebody that the director really pissed off literally went on, I believe it was Twitter, now known as X, but he sent out a bunch of text messages that the director sent to him that were very racist and, like, really ill-noted, like, very inappropriate and racist. And so, of course, people got mad. You know, it's not cool to be racist. And then, like, a whole bunch of other stuff came down. He made an apology video that I saw, and I thought it was very genuine. That's why I even watched this movie. But then it also turns out that it wasn't even just him. It was the actor who played Spider-Man. And there was the actor who played Green Goblin. They were all very racist. And on top of that, the actor who played Green Goblin is also a child molester. So, yeah, it's got a lot of controversy. It came out, people were dogging on it when it came out, saying it was absolute garbage. Except the people on YouTube, in the comment section, you read the comment section and it says it was absolutely amazing. But then you go over to Twitter, there's not a single good review of this. So personally, I put this one off as long as I possibly could. I didn't know if I wanted to watch this movie. I've heard it was boring. It's over 2 hours, so I didn't know if it would be boring or if, like, I would find it entertaining. But I was like, screw it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to talk about it. It's okay. It's not the worst thing ever made. Controversy aside, I really think that the director made a genuine apology that I believe. And so I'm not mad at the director, but the film is okay. It's got a lot of emotional beats, like so many emotional beats to where I was almost crying at every scene because everything that they did here was very emotional and could hit close to home. Some of the themes here about death and loss was great. And also the main theme about Spider-Man, where Spider-Man has to be the hero no matter what happens because people look up to him. That is a fantastic theme to explore in this film. And it does that. It's very emotional. And in that sense, it's kind of like force-feeding you it, but it doesn't feel like you're getting force-fed it. It feels like it's a very emotional Spider-Man story that makes you cry. And the acting and the directing, I think, is quite good for this. There's some very directed scenes. There's some very good acted scenes. Everybody just, like, had this emotional presence, and they were all here for it. And I really, really did appreciate the movie for that. On top of that, it also has a couple things that I just kind of like. The Easter eggs here were very good. Like, there was a license plate at the beginning of the movie that I saw that said TASM 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which this movie reminds me a lot of because Gwen died. I mean, Easter eggs, it was very important in that. And it feels like a lived-in world. Like, they would bring up the Avengers. They would bring up other things that Spider-Man's done. And there were some neat things along that way. And like I said, very emotional, very heartfelt, very, like, they knew the story that they were going to do, and they never let up on the emotions. And in that sense, you will get very emotional watching this movie. And I kind of got emotional watching the movie a couple of times because, like, it's just so heavy-handed in there. And that's kind of where the problem for this one is that it takes its emotions and it's so heavy-handed with its emotions that we're all just like, oh, okay, but where's the Spider-Man action? Where's the Spider-Man stuff? Where's everything that makes Spider-Man be who Spider-Man is? Because it's not really there. There's nothing really that makes Spider-Man. It's mainly a movie about a couple teens losing a best friend, maybe even a girlfriend, a true love, and experiencing that loss. And like I said, it added in a very cool theme where Spider-Man goes to this dying kid's house. I love this comic. I think it's a great comic. He goes to the dying kid's house. Dying kid shows him what it's like to be Spider-Man. Like, gives Peter a new meaning to be Spider-Man. And that's a very great theme for here. That is a great theme for a Spider-Man movie. But you're also making a Spider-Man movie. And this movie is, you barely see the suit. All the web swinging, all the action that was in the beginning was great, but you barely see all that. What you get is actors sitting around crying and being very emotional about a dead friend. And I enjoy it for that. That's what movie this was. But it was not a Spider-Man movie, not at all. It did not feel like it. It felt like a movie where teens were sitting around crying. And that's okay, because it does that very well, I think. But it's a Spider-Man movie, man. Like, you can't just make a Spider-Man movie, a bunch of teens sitting around crying, because you gotta include everything that makes Spider-Man. Like I said, for the second time, that theme about Spider-Man being who it is very good, but you needed a better script, and you needed more things to fill out your time. More things to make it Spider-Man, because another big problem I had with this movie is the time. I mean, Cosmonaut Variety Hour said it best, but in this, there's a part where Peter's talking to this kid, and this kid's like, now go be Spider-Man. His story arc is over. Everything that makes Spider-Man, the theme of this movie is over. Even Harry and MJ's plotlines were fulfilled. This is at the 90-minute mark. This movie's an hour and 20 minutes. This movie's 2 hours long, like 120 minutes, my bad. It is a long movie, so in that time you get more half hour of people just sitting around talking, to where I was like, what is going on here? Like, it never finds a way to fill up the time. What it does is makes very emotional statements, makes it be a very emotional movie, and then like, oh yeah, and also we're just going to keep it going for as long as possible, make the money worthwhile. Like, this movie did not need to have this big of a budget. Like I said, I like the themes. I like a lot of things that they did here. I really like the director and how he did things. And even like the apology seemed genuine. People make mistakes. But then, like, you just didn't make a perfect movie. There's so many little problems here that felt like you were going for the most biggest ambitious thing, but you didn't know how to fill it up. That I know I'm talking bad about. It's a fan film. I think for a fan film, it does this very, very, very well. But there's just some problems here that really held back my enjoyment. So for Spider-Man Lotus, I'm going to give it a B. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. It's not a great movie, but I enjoyed the movie for the time being. And go sue me. I really don't care. I don't care about the controversy. I think people make mistakes, and that's all that. The movie was fine. That's that. Let's talk about Equalizer 3. Now, the Equalizer franchise is not a franchise that I'm a fan of. Believe it or not, thrillers are some of my favorite movies, some of my favorite genres. I love this kind of genre. And then I watched the first one about a week before I saw the new one. I still haven't seen the second one, but I watched the first one. And I was like, for the first half, I was like, I liked a lot of things that this franchise did. I liked a lot of things that were in here. But, like, overall, the pacing was a big issue to where I was really bored, and then all of a sudden get big action, and then really bored for another half hour. And that's kind of what that first movie was. So going into this one, I didn't know what to expect. People were a big fan of the franchise, and so when they said it was positive, I didn't know what to think about it, because I was never a big fan of this franchise. But I went to see it because I wanted to go to the movies, and I saw this movie, and for what it's worth, number one, it's much better than the first one. I like the new one. I like number 3 much more than I like this movie right here. But it's also, like, it's not perfect. Starting with the positives, the thing I love about this franchise is that what its premise is. It's about Denzel Washington, a very nice guy helping people out, and then going killing absolutely horrible people that just walk into people's homes and just kill them, or prostitute girls, like terrible, terrible people. You'll just go and take them out, and it's very satisfying to watch these people die by Denzel Washington's hands. And that's something I've always liked this franchise for. I really like that aspect here. And it's done very well here. There's some creative things that they did to where these villains would come in here and they're like taking over this town, and you feel for these characters because Italy feels like a character, and you feel for these characters living in Italy, and you're like, you feel for them when the bad guys come and take over. And so when Denzel just kills the bad guys, it's very, very fulfilling, and you really feel that. The performances are actually quite good. Denzel Washington obviously is a great actor. I've always liked Denzel, and he never fails in these movies. He's always great as well. The action, I think, is good. I was never a big fan of the action because there's barely any in these movies, but the action here is good, and there was some creative choices, like the decision to make the bad guy overdose on his own pills that he was selling was actually a really great idea, and I think that idea really works here. And just like some of the kills were cool. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie where he stabs a guy through the eye with a gun, keeps pulling the head around, just shoots people around him. Like that, man, that is so cool. And there's some cool kills here, some great action, I think, as well. And the villains, very evil, like I said, very fulfilling when they die. The people's biggest complaint about this one was the villains. I quite like the villains. I think that they had their own arcs here that really kind of worked, and how bad they were and how you liked it when they died. And it's just like, it's paced much better than the first one for me, because the first one was like, it would go really slow, and then it gets into the action, and then all of a sudden it cuts away from something cool, and then we're back to a cool scene, and then it cuts away from something cool to the big scene. I just never felt like that was earned. By the first half of that movie, I really enjoyed. The last half, I just didn't feel like anything was earned. Here, I think it did some cool things by showing us the kills and pacing the movie much better, to where you are instantly in here and something's always happening. Either you're getting some exposition with the characters, or you're seeing Denzel do something cool, or he's actually killing bad guys. It's not just Denzel sitting around and, you know, like planning to kill bad guys until the final scene, to when he actually does. And so obviously a much bigger improvement over the original film. I think it does basically everything better than that first film. It's much more entertaining for me. Definitely not perfect. There is a couple of pacing issues to where there were times that I missed the action, where I was like, I'm here for an action thriller, and, you know, like, where's the action, man? Like, there are obviously things that could have been cut out of the movie. Definitely times that I felt like, oh, it's still got another half hour left, and it has like an hour left, and it definitely some things that could have been cut out of the movie. It was too long. And at the same time, there were some plot lines here that really did not resolve themselves or make sense whatsoever. The big one here was where all of a sudden it was like, the main cop gets injured, and then her partner's like, we're going to stop these guys. And then Denzel goes through the finale, stops the bad guys, and then all of a sudden you're like, the cop goes to the guy like, good job, we did it. And she's like, no, you did it. And I'm like, he didn't do nothing. He just says he's going to do it. And then Denzel goes kill him. Like, this could have been a big moment for this character, and they just like completely forgot about that plot line throughout the last half hour of the movie. So just little things like that. This franchise is very, like, low. It's not like John Wick style action. It's not like, it's a franchise to where it's cool sitting in a theater for 2 hours watching Denzel kill very bad people. That's what this franchise is. It's nothing real particular, nothing real that I'm excited to keep going back to in the future. It's just like, it's that, and that's okay. And it's okay to go to the theater to watch a 2-hour action movie of Denzel killing people. And that's what I got, and it did things much better than this first one did. And so for that, Equalizer 3, I am going to go ahead and give a B+. It's an enjoyable film. It's fine. It's not perfect, but it's got some good things here. Let's talk about Gran Turismo, a movie that I've absolutely adored. This is one of the best movies of the year for me. In fact, besides Spider-Verse, this is the best movie of the year for me. Because it's amazing. It's actually perfect. I went with a girl, and when we both left the theater, we were both like, that's the best movie of the year. That's how good this is. The first act is very slow. I kept saying to myself, like, is this gonna get better? It's kind of boring. It's got a very slow first act. And the moment we get to the second act where things kick in high gear, I instantly knew that this was going to be a great movie. Not only are the racing sequences intense, but the director, Neil Blomkamp, who you might know from directing District 9, Chappie, I think he did, what's that other movie with Vin Diesel called? I completely forgot for a minute. But he directs all of these great movies, and he came into this one, and he shows a distinct style here to where, like, it'll combine everything about the PlayStation games into a movie form, and it's very intense, and it's very stylized, and it's very cool just to see on screen. And with the racing sequences, they are some of the most intense sequences that I've seen in a theater. Like, I was holding my breath for most of these because you think it's going a different way, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, we're doing this a completely different way. There's a part of the movie where I said to myself, yeah, this movie's got 10 minutes left, and it almost had another hour left, and I'm not complaining. Like, that's a good thing because, like, it completely threw a complete curveball to where you're like, oh no. Like, I was in the theater, my mouth was open like this whole time during this intense sequence. And I think it was absolutely great. And the direction that he takes it is absolutely phenomenal. It's very intense. The cast here is very good. A big standout for me is always David Harbour. Everything he's in is a big standout. I think in this movie is no less. He also does a great job. And, I mean, you have to love David Harbour. His relationship with everybody was so good. Even his relationship with the kid was very emotional in here. And on top of that, yeah, obviously the film is very emotional. There are so many emotional sequences to where in the beginning of the movie, and even in the trailers, you know it's going to be an emotional film like, oh, Dad, I can do what I want. And then you know the dad's going to all of a sudden come to the boy's side. You've seen this movie a billion times before. But the way the emotions were portrayed and the way it happens were very great. Like I said, it threw that curveball, and like the stuff it does with the family and with David Harbour and all that is very emotional, and it's done in a very great way, and I absolutely loved what it was able to do in that situation. And very emotional. I cried, she cried, everybody cried, and the race sequences were so good. It's an intense movie from start to finish. It's an emotional movie from start to finish. The cast is great. Even like the throwbacks to the video games. I never played the video game, and I kind of wish I did because of this. Like, it's that good of a movie to where it just throws you right in here and you're captivated. Absolutely captivated on screen for a whole 2.5 hours. And you see the sequences, so many great sequences and so many great stylized sequences that are just so great. You respect the director for what he did. The writers, I think Neil Blomkamp wrote this film. I might be wrong, but I respect everybody just of making this film because, oh my gosh, what an emotional experience. What a great experience. This is obviously a film that I would recommend to anybody. I mean, it does so many things so great in this film that I cannot wait till it comes on Blu-ray to watch it again. As comes Spider-Verse, it's not better than the Spider-Verse because I rewatched Spider-Verse and that movie's still a masterpiece, but this is also a masterpiece. It's a close second. It's easily the best live-action movie of the year. And I was not expecting another movie this year to be this good. And this movie is this good. It blew me away. I'm still blown away by how good this movie is. And such an intense movie. I love the movie. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Obviously, I do still got to score it. I mean, come on, man. It's a perfect movie. Beginning to finish, it's a perfect movie. It's getting an A+. And so, Gran Turismo, great. The other two movies, they're okay. They're good. They're fine. Once I watch Equalizer 2, I'm going to have an Equalizer ranking. I still have a DCEU ranking. I'm going to have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ranking, a Saw ranking when that one comes out, a Halloween ranking for Halloween, Breaking Bad review. I'm very behind, guys. I still got a lot more videos coming. But thank you guys for clicking on this one. And with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.